To be or not to be? That is the question.
Oh my God, we're going Shakespeare.
Yes.
Right out the chute.
Oh, it's basketball season time, man. The brain is working. What's going on, everybody? PHLY Sixers Podcast.
Something's working.
Yes, it is. The season preview here in the preseason as we talk about last night's first preseason game as the Sixers handle their business against the visiting New Zealand Breakers. And we talk about a lot of things from last night, questioning whether some of the stuff that we saw from last night's preseason win was real or not. And we'll get to it all right here.
It was all a dream.
On the PHLY Sixers Podcast with Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck. I'm Devon Givens, Brianna producing, all of you in the chat. Folks, we get to talk about some basketball, so we can't wait to see what you all have to say, breaking down everything from last night's game, that things that you liked, that you didn't like, some things that you really believe are able to translate towards the regular season, and we'll talk about it all here on the PHLY Sixers Podcast. We are presented by, as always, our good friends from Rothman Orthopedics and Bet365. And again, if you have not seen the video from Rothman Ortho on Twitter, at Rothman Ortho on Twitter.
Our shining basketball star, Devon Givens.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Go check out the Twitter account from Rothman Ortho and the very well-produced video that they put out there talking about my ACL and my Achilles recovery, thanks to the great people from Rothman Orthopedics. All right, let's get to the basketball game last night. Derek, it was a beatdown. You and Kyle were in the arena, spoke to you pregame, Kyle postgame. So very interested in hearing your thoughts when Rich and I discussed, and Bree, we talked about it during pregame, some of the things that we were watching. Guerschon Yabusele, we'll talk about him a little bit later. Andre Drummond, three-point shooting. We'll discuss that a little bit later.
The sniper.
And I tried to tell Rich, but he wouldn't. He just would not believe me. And I kept telling him, I'm like, Rich, they really talked about this. He's like, this is what you want to see? Yeah, because they were talking about it. And it's the preseason. Why not unfurl that? We'll get to that a little bit later. But the other thing that we did highlight in the pregame conversation with you was Jared McCain and seeing him, the shooting. Joel Embiid talking about how he was the best player so far through training camp. How real was that? Are we to believe Joel because he's pumping up his rookie, or is it Joel being funny and taking some pressure off him? Whatever you want to do. He came out there and he shot the ball really well in this one, and there was a lot of the conversation about the no dip. We'll get to the video a little bit later, but he showed himself well in game one of the preseason, at least for the first game. Not necessarily answering all the questions from the draft to summer league to training camp to where we are today, but he played well in last night's game.
Yeah. So I think what I'll say is this was almost like an inverse of summer league, where he couldn't make a shot in summer league and everyone started to panic, but he did a lot of the smaller things like creating off the dribble, competing defensively. And it was like, all right, well, he's doing these things and the shot will come. Well, the shot came, and I have almost no doubt that the shot will come. He could shoot 32% from three this year, sort of like Isaiah Joe from a couple of years ago, and I will say I believe in that shot. It might take a year to get used to the speed of the competition. It might take some time to get used to the line, but I think it might just take reps and a little bit of volume to get that percentage back to where you expect to be. He will end up being a good shooter. I have very little doubt in that. I almost don't care what happens this year. Obviously, you would love to see the shot go in. That's sort of how you score points, so it's an important part of the game, but I will believe in that for a long, long time. I will say last night, I think there was probably some things that happened that I thought showcased some people who are concerned about him. I thought finishing inside, he struggled with. I think he still is trying to get a good gauge of when to use the offhand, when to go to the floater. I think he's going to get his shot blocked a lot. And defensively, I thought he had a lot of time keeping his man in front of him. So it was, like I said, sort of like an inverse of Summer League where it's great that the shot went in. I have very little question about that shot eventually going in. I do think he competed relatively well, and I don't think he's got like the 7 rebounds I think were legitimate. Like I think he crashes and competes on the glass. But if you were someone who came in and said, I believe in Jared McCain because of the shot, you exit that game, you go, great, the shot went in. If you were someone who comes in and says, I have concerns about his athleticism and whether he can hold up defensively against quicker guards and whether he can finish inside of the arc, you probably walk away from that game going like, I still have some concerns over whether or not he can finish inside the arc.
Yeah, look, it's hard to get a gauge on Jared McCain big picture because I think the vision for him rests on Joel Embiid being available, right? Like discussed a lot when he was drafted, after he was drafted. I think he's someone that works as a 1, but in a system where you don't need the 1 to create much, right? Where somebody else is the primary initiator. In this case, it's the 7-foot tall guy from Cameroon who's going to get the ball at the elbow, get the ball on the block. You play through him, and then all of Jared's strengths come to the forefront, and whatever weaknesses he has kind of shrink to the background. I think one of the noticeable things, Devon, you and I were talking about before the show, was that they had him attached to another ball handler at basically all times. So early, that was Kyle Lowry. After that, it was Jeff Doughton. There was a little bit of Reggie Jackson. And then later on, once again, with Jeff Doughton. And I think that shows that, at least for right now, he's probably viewed in more of the, let's say, the Eric Gordon role, the guy who's going to come in and be a pretty much exclusively off-ball guy, someone who will attack closeouts, spot up, make deep threes. And that's going to be how he has to win minutes. I think the hope would be, at some point this year, he is able to beat out somebody like Lowry or Reggie Jackson, whoever ends up the nominal backup point guard out of those two. I think Lowry has the inside track right now. Mm-hmm. If he can beat them out, then you're able to play a bigger guy, a more athletic guy at the 2 next to him when Maxey's on the bench. And it gives you a better chance to have a high-level defense on the floor basically at all times, right? Because when Joel's off the floor, it'll be Drummond and PG and probably one of the starting wings and Maxey, and that's a really good group. Then you could have Joel, McCain as the 1, and even for a rookie, you're going to hope, based on his reputation, his pedigree, that he will get there as a defender at some point. I think Jared being able to manage a game enough to be a 1 is kind of what you're hoping for over the long term, at least in a backup role. And certainly long term, you hope he can play some minutes with Maxey, depending on everything else. But the shot is the key. If he can shoot like he did last night, none of the other stuff really matters, right? If he's going to shoot 4 for 9 from 3 or some approximation of that, not every night, but at least most nights, he will be on the floor, because I think between the quick release, the confidence in a variety of situations, whether it's, moving off the ball, we've seen this was big time in college, but that pull up in transition, he loves, like, to be able to take and make those types of shots. And I think we'll probably show a clip at some point. We talked about it last night on the post game, Devon, that quick release 3 on the wing that looked like he was like mini Nick Batum out there. Mm-hmm. That is going to be critical for him as he makes the adjustment that he's talked about, the dealing with 6'8" guys with 7-foot wingspans. At his height, his size, you got to get him up quickly. And so we know he's been working on that. To see it already translate to game results is a great sign for him this early on. And
I would say, as a shooter, I know we're going to bring up Batum because he was here last year, but like, he reminds me way more of Clay as a shooter in the way he's able to get his feet set.
Yes.
Coming in transition, that no-dip 3 that Clay really relied upon a lot and added to his game. I would say that is probably, not that he's going to be the player that Clay is, because Clay was bigger, a better defender, yada, yada, yada. But in terms of his shooting profile, he reminds me more of that, more than someone like Batum, who is more of like a line hugger type.
So when looking at it, as Kyle and Derek are talking about it, specifically on the piece that Kyle talked about with the shooting being on the floor with some other guys, but he's the 1. He's going to be 1 in title because he's 6'2", mm-hmm. and he's going to be the point guard when you're looking at how point guard, shooting guard, all the way down to the center. But if he's out there with other players who can handle the basketball and take that pressure of him bringing the ball up the floor, not being pressured 60 feet away from the basket, like we saw last night, Derek, that you bring up, where there were those questions of having Jackson Cartwright dog him up and down the floor and forcing him to give the basketball up. So it's only in title. But if he's out there with them and they can handle the ball, whether it's Kelly Oubre or even having Paul George out there, if he's on the floor at the same time, where he can at least bring the ball up the floor, get them into the set. And the way that the offenses flow, we know that it's not a point guard just simply standing at the top of the key anymore, mm-hmm. setting up any half-court set. It's all about the movement, the passing, the screening, the dribble handoffs, and finding the open gaps that you need to for your shooting, and then for the ability to get to the basket if you can get that runner, that floater off in that traffic there in the middle. So if he's able to do that, then sure, if the shot is falling, it's going to be very hard for Nick Nurse to keep him off the floor, because that's why they drafted him for right now. To be that Eric Gordon piece, to be that guy that can come in and knock down shots and hope that he's not a negative on the other end defensively, and then protecting the basketball as a ball handler on the offensive side. So for right now, for that rookie, there's so much talent. And again, jokingly saying last night, they have a bunch of talent on the roster last night. They have an embarrassment of riches at the guards where they can have that luxury of having him as a guy to just be a shooter for right now, while honing his skills as a ball handler maybe in the G League for the time that he's there. And sure, certain times when he's playing and there may not be such a hard defender opposite him against whatever team that they're going, where he's able to show that he can bring the ball up against this player because he's not known for his defense. He's not being dogged as much about with this player opposite him on this particular
Fall
team.
allergy season for Derek over there.
Right. Bring it in now. Hurry up. So Derek's okay. But yeah, it was at least a good showing. And for right now, that's who he is. He's a shooter on this basketball team. And at least to show that no dip last night of the Klay Thompson variety or mini Nick Batum, it was good to see it.
And I think to the point about the ball handling, that's the thing that jumps out to me on offense the most. He's just not strong enough with his handle yet and it's weird, right?
And because it was a concern on draft night that you guys brought up.
I do think that if you just look at him, generally he's a pretty strong guy for his size, but he is not strong enough to like ward guys off and keep the handle and navigate traffic right now. And so he gets stuck in a lot of these in-between areas where it's like, you can't, as a 6'2" guy on an NBA floor, pick up your dribble at the nail. Like that is absolute no man's land.
That's going to get you off the floor.
You will get doubled from every angle. Somebody's coming in to trap you, and the other team's running the other way quickly. And yes, to your point, Devon, as a rookie especially, that gets you benched and you will not see the floor for the rest of the night. So that's something that he's got to work on. Some of it's craft, some of it is strength, and some of it is just going to be experience, right? Like I do think that's why he probably needs time in the G League this year, because he's got to get used to dealing with NBA level athletes every single play, every single possession, and the type of intensity that they will come with on the defensive end of the floor. I think the other big thing that jumped out, we already touched on it a little bit, is on defense at the point of attack. He struggled pretty mightily last night. I do think off ball, I was more encouraged in that I saw him make some good reads. I think generally, and this is his reputation, right? Head is up. He's engaged with the play at all times. He does a good job of tracking his man and trying to stay with his man as he's following what's happening on the ball. I think the downside is he got stuck on a lot of screens and he had a real hard time staying in front of, I'm blanking on his name, Jackson Cartwright was his name. Yeah. He had a pretty big night last night, 20-plus point night, and a lot of those were attacking Jared directly. So we'll see if that's just an aberration. Obviously, your first NBA game of any kind, not going to write you off as a defender based on that. And I at least am happy to see didn't turn him into steals, but there were deflections, there were good reads where he's keeping the defense intact. I think those things are important over the long term.
Yep. And look, we'll show the video on the other side because there's a lot to like there. The guys can break down what they see in the shooting on the video, let everybody see it. In the event that you were unable to catch the game last night, did not see any of the highlights, we'll make sure that you're able to see that with the video when we do come back. And we'll do that when we get back, talk a little McCain and also a little bit more of the guard rotation overall. We saw some good things from all the guards last night. Maxey was just Maxey. We'll address him, but the other guys are the other guys. We'll talk about them as well right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. And if you are feeling inspired about last night's victory, a blowout win, and you maybe made a wager on the game last night, I hope you did so at Bet365. We've been telling you about them for quite a while. They are our show sponsor, and we appreciate it as always. And we have a big baseball game late this afternoon in New York, where Philadelphia is looking to take a victory on the road in Game 3 and take a 2-1 series lead. If you're feeling good about the best player, number 3, going yard in New York, you can place a wager right here on Bet365. They have 90 million users worldwide, live streams of 780,000 events each year, and they'll do so with this game as well when you go in live and try to make a wager on the game. Early payout offers across NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. And if you sign up right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 and sign up. Deposit $10. Place a bet for $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and much more. So when we're speaking about baseball, once again, qualifying parlay bets total $20 or more on the MLB games. Always a good one, especially on Tuesdays. Download the app, use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Also, they might make you feel pretty good after a victory and you decide we need to celebrate late into the night, deep into the night. And you got to go with the good friends at Blue Chew. Great sponsors that have been added to our show. And they are amazing. And you can have some fun, of course, with Blue Chew, you and your significant other. Have fun with
significant,
Blue Chew.
All right.
Overall, they say the first impressions are important, and what about the lasting impressions? That's where Blue Chew comes in, and Blue Chew helps boost your confidence in the bedroom so you can play hard and perform at your very best. Does Blue Chew work? Well, if you're asking that question, we want you to know that Blue Chew is putting their money where their mouth is by giving you a month free. It's an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. So you don't have to, if you're worried about pills and having to worry about, oh, I can't, all right, fine. Chewable. You're all good. Don't worry about the best part. It's all done online. That means no visit to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. They drop the package right there at your door, your front door. Does it work? Well, again, you need to try it to find out. So this is what you need to know. Got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay the $5 shipping. That's all you have to do. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY. That's ALLCITY to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. All right, welcome back. Got to go deep, deep, deep.
Oh, we're going deep, all right.
Into the video. And we might as well sponsor
You just couldn't help yourself.
Come on. That was a meatball. That was that pitch that guy hung in the Cleveland-Detroit game in the 9th inning. Come on, you're just asking for it. I'm sorry.
I knew exactly what I was saying. And Kyle hit the home run, folks. Hopefully Bryce Harper does the same.
Helmet came off running around the bases.
This afternoon. Well,
multiple meanings to that.
I was going to say, I don't know if you want to do that, but hey.
Anyway.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is what you get on the PHLY Sixers Podcast. That's why we all love you. Winona, I'm sorry I forgot to remind you that read was in the works and about to happen. So that's it for the day, Winona. You don't have to worry about anything else to make you uncomfortable. All right, let's get to the video of Jared McCain going deep, deep, twice to make people feel a lot better about his shooting. Bree, roll the tape about this the back-to-back three of Jared McCain. So
the first one here has right here. That's the just quick up bang. I love that when I saw that in real time. I'm pretty sure I nudged Derek on the side and was like, you see that? You notice that? But that's a big deal because, again, we know this is something he's been working on and his mechanics are already pristine as they are.
Thank you, Bree. Yep.
But to be able to adjust like that, where it's like, hey, game situation, guys flying at you, you got to get the shot off some way, somehow. For him to be able to shorten it up a little bit and still, everything else, the base of the shot, all that is clean and compact. Love seeing that in game one and hoping that we're going to see more of that in the future.
Yeah, and what allows him to do stuff like that is he has such a solid foundation, and his base and his footwork is so pristine that he can make changes like that, and he can make alterations to his upper body mechanics, including shortening it, including that no dip, relatively easily. And he just has a real tremendous base to work with. It allows him to get his balance set in transition. It allows him to come off of screens, and it allows him to do stuff like that. And, you know, he's been talking about it a lot. Like, the guys here are 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. He's got to find ways to get that shot off quicker, and it's certainly a way. And it's not going to be every shot. It's going to be when you need it. But him having that in his arsenal is huge for sure.
And having that and doing so on the NBA level will also, once people realize, the scouting report is already going to tell you that the guy can shoot. But when the guy gets out there and shoots it the way that he did, knocking them down, especially going back-to-back where the Sixers are making a run, the next thing is they're going to try to close out, and they're going to run at him and try to run him off the line. And that's where the other piece gets into it, of making sure that Derek, he can knock down that runner, that floater, getting into the lane, because he did get one block last night because of what you're talking about, still not having enough lift there in the paint and being crafty around the basket. He did have one where he scooped it on the left side of it with the right hand layup. It was short. He did not make it, but I like that he goes up underneath the arm of the defender, where you can make it, or you could also get fouled by them doing so. But he has to make those when they do run him off the line. Certainly the defense will then collapse, and he can, as a point guard, the instincts of passing, find that open man around the perimeter. But it will be great for him if he's able to knock down some of that interior stuff after forcing them to run him off the line because of his outshot shooting.
Yeah, and that's where you're going to need more of an adjustment to the pros, right? Like even Tyrese early on, he had the runner floater game, but it was still, one, the coaching staff was like, hey, we want you to get to the rim more, finish around those guys at the basket. But two, it's, you know, even if you have that built-in runner floater package, you have to figure out, okay, now every game I'm playing a guy that's 7 feet tall with, you know, 7 foot plus wingspan, versus in college, you might get that, I don't know, every few games or so if you're playing in a high level conference like the SEC, ACC, etc. But finishing inside the arc often is the tougher jump for guys of his size, because quite frankly, that's where you're going to meet the biggest guys on the floor. So it'll take some time, and I think the G League will help him out there as well.
And I do hope and look, I understand sometimes it's scoffed at where the mid-range jump shot, but if that's best for him, I pull up at that 15, right at that elbow, and just knock that one down. Yeah. You know, it's 2 points, and we already know you can shoot the outside shot, but if they're going to give it to you and there's too much going on in there traffic-wise, pull up and knock that mid-range jumper down right at the elbow.
Yeah, and whatever right now, and look, we can sit here and complain about mid-range shots. We can have a debate over whether or not role players should be taking them. Right now, it's whatever he can do that will make him comfortable, so that he's not a one-shot guy.
Yeah.
He's not only outside the three-point arc. Whatever he can do to make the defense think when he catches the ball, I think he needs to lean into that. If that means pulling up off the dribble, even if it's a long two, even if it's a low expected value shot, I think you got to do it early on in your career and then eventually add more and more to it. Like Tyrese is a great example. Early on in Tyrese's career, he was settling for that floater too much. It was something you had to get him out of the habit for, but he also wasn't at the point where he was, I think, able to play through contact.
Yeah.
So to get your confidence up, put him in a situation where he can, he's comfortable doing what he can do, and then go from there.
No, and look, but the showing overall, the positives, the shooting, of course, that we know. The questions is where other things, of course, will go following that. The other guard play. Look, Tyrese Maxey is Tyrese Maxey.
Well, I think we do want to talk about Tyrese, because I think there was a pretty significant.
I'm just pointing it out that the guy was good, man. He just right away gets out there, and it was like, okay, Tyrese Maxey's in. He's ready to play. He came up ready to play. He was prepared to get things going, and he was really good in that in that run. So we also have a video that Kyle, you wanted to look at. Derek, of course, we jump in there also, but he was so good. His outside shooting, the one drive that you and I talked about pregame, Rich and I and Bree, we were sitting there, and I said, "Oh,
thought he was gonna punch one."
Yeah, it was. Oh, I love the left hand finish on the right side, and we've talked so much about some other finishing.
The Blue Chew ad? No.
That too. Even though Darkness said the Sixers were so good last night, he didn't need it. And look, Tyrese played really, really well, and we can run this video also of how Tyrese Maxey looked, the 15 points in the 12 minutes that he played. Certainly didn't have to come back on the floor.
Yeah. So the big thing, which is what jumped out at me, was the shot release, because that, to my eye, looks like a quicker release from him on basically all these shots that he took. And watching in real time, there was part of me that was like, well, he's being guarded by a guy who's like 5'9".
He had no worries rising up and trying to shoot
so you can have it up in front of you a little bit more and not have to worry about that if you're him. But there are a couple of these shots, like I believe the one where he comes off a dribble handoff, or there's some kind of baseline out of bounds
right
play,
side,
and Yabusele sets a screen for him, where there's a second defender there who's a lot bigger than Parker Jackson Cartwright, and Tyrese is still rising up for him a quicker release point on his shot. And I don't want to read too much into it. And
that's the one right there.
That's another one right there. If he can get his shot off quicker and he's hitting it at a high level. Now, this is what I'm talking about here.
Right.
He comes off of the Yabusele screen, big man steps, and that's still a relatively compact release from him, which is not to say in the past that he's been a slow shooter.
No.
It's just when we are scrutinizing someone like him as much as we do, you pick up on things like that, like, oh, that looks a little bit different. And I went back and watched some old ones, and that cut some time down, and that's coming off of his wrist a little bit differently. Do I want Tyrese reinventing the wheel when he is such a good shooter as it is? No, but I thought that was noteworthy as we go into the season to see what kind of impact does that have. Is he going to come down the floor and start taking regularly those Dame Lillard type pull-up threes where it's, you're 35 feet out, and it's like, if you're dropping, I'm pulling up, because he's confident.
And that's where I was going to go and say it looked like Damian Lillard. That release, that range, watching your videos from pregame stuff that he was doing and taking those logo shots and making the one, of course, against New York in Game 5 in a big, big money spot. It looked like Dame Lillard now with that type of quick release for what he's doing.
Yeah. And look, so if I'm looking at Tyrese, of the top 4 things I would look for him to improve upon, the quickness of the release probably isn't in there, just because the other weaknesses, like the passing, an improvement there would have such a drastic impact. The defense, obviously, we can talk about. Yeah, probably foul drawing is up there. All right, so maybe quickness of the release is 4th. But it isn't an inconsequential thing either. Like I think we look at some of the other things, and they're important because they're his main limitations. But if he can make his main strength even more pronounced and even more of a weapon, especially when you talk about that 2-man game with Embiid, any split second you can cut down on that would be huge. I do sort of have to see it against like an NBA team a little bit. Like, we'll see. And to your point, like not all of them came against Jackson Cartwright, but chunk of them did, and he certainly had no worries, pulling up and rising above him because he was not getting that shot block.
But see, the other impressive part about it is it's off the dribble. It's all off the dribble where you got to gather. You got to feel the seams, how you like them to get that going and get that shot off. And the other impressive part, naturally, as a right-hand guy, you'd like to go left. And when you go left, the gather is easier because you're bringing the basketball up with your guide hand to shoot it. But when you're doing so and going to the right with the shooting hand and still having to gather and make sure you get a good feel with your guide hand and get that shot off quickly as he does, that's really impressive for a guy that we've seen him improve every single year. So we're not worried about it. As you said, it's not anything that's inconsequential. It's just a matter of we know he's going to get better because he always does it. We know he's in the gym working on these things, probably against some pros too. To your point, it's just not an NBA game action. But for him to do so, and especially going right, where it's always harder, it's always tougher to get that natural shot going because of the guide hand having to be right and get the seams correctly with that now quick release, that's really, really impressive for him to do so with the defense, scouting him to take that away now.
I mean, look, he is one of the best shooters in the world. Just point blank, period.
That's crazy to say for all the scouting, of course, coming out of the draft that people had about that.
One thing Derek brought up that I think is really important. If you're talking about in the actions with Joel Embiid, when they're running those quick combination dribble handoffs, whether it's a quarter of a second, half a second, whatever it might be, that can make an enormous difference. That's the difference between, the big who's trying to contain Joel being able to get a credible contest in there, or Tyrese getting a clean shooting window. And if he has a cleaner shooting window, we believe in the talent and the skill enough that he's going to make more of those than he's probably going to miss. So I wouldn't say I'm necessarily buying or selling this yet. It's, again, I agree with Derek on the sample, right? It's a game against a pretty low level of competition relative to what he's going to face in the NBA.
All due respect, Matt.
Yeah. I love Matt Walsh, friend of the program now. They're the NBL. It's the NBA. He gets on that. But if we start to see this throughout the rest of the preseason, that's not an insignificant detail. So we'll see.
It's a good thing to have in the bag there as you improve as a player looking to win a championship, especially with the talent that you have around. We'll get into some more. Are we buying? Are we selling? What do you think of Guerschon Yabusele at the 5? It was a nice wrinkle that we all discussed. I think Nick Nurse might have been watching our show in the offseason in the coaching staff, because we discussed this, and man, did we get a nice sample size of it last night. We'll discuss it when we get back, plus Andre Drummond as well in the shooting of the threes, because Lee Nin wants to talk about it as well. Fire it up, Drum. Fire it up.
Yeah,
we'll be
baby.
back here on the PHLY Sixers Podcast.
Well, this whole show is built around buying and selling. If you have to buy flooring, Empire Today is where you want to go. And if you're like me, you probably need a little help with a task like that. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have some copycats, but those copycats can't beat Empire Today on quality, service, or speed, so they advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. With Empire Today keeps shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need, not to overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. And Empire Today has a virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. Flooring is all that Empire Today does. They live and breathe flooring, so you can be confident you're getting honest, upfront advice. And they also service their own warranties, which is key. So with Empire Today, you won't have to track down a manufacturer's phone number. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when you use promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHLY for details.
And let me tell you about our good friends from Rothman Orthopedics, again, sponsor of this very show, our training camp visit to the Bahamas, and so much more here in the preseason. We always appreciate them. I appreciate them personally because they helped me get back on my feet after both my ACL and my Achilles injuries. And it's not just me, because they take care of you. They're focused on you, and they make sure that they look after for everyone that needs any kind of help. Rothman's 200-plus fellowship-trained physicians subspecialize in specific areas of the body and multitude of orthopedic services, including the hip, knee, spine, shoulder, and elbow, foot, ankle, and so much more. Patients will find the full spectrum of orthopedic care at Rothman Orthopedics, from diagnosis to discharge. They provide their patients with every service and procedure necessary, such as x-rays, orthotics and bracing, MRIs, physical therapy, and more. And I'm laughing because I literally had to do each and every one of them when they were checking me out for my injuries. For more than 50 years, Rothman has participated in thousands of groundbreaking research and clinical trials with the goal of advancing knowledge, development treatments, and improving outcomes for the benefit of their patients. Rothman Orthopedics, they specialize in orthopedics and you and me. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today.
Do I get a sizzle reel if I go to Rothman, or is that just special people like you, Devon?
We can arrange that.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll have my people talk to your people, talk to the Rothman people.
Consider it done. Consider it done. We need a sizzle reel for Kyle Neubeck.
I love our friends at Rothman. I hope I don't need a sizzle reel, because it means I'm coming back from injury. So knock on wood.
No, you just want to be able to show that you can shoot the basketball like me. And that's video at Rothman Ortho on Twitter. And of course, you can check out the link on that very video on Twitter. Yabusele deserves his own video from last night.
He certainly had a sizzle reel. He shot 100% from the field, man.
6 for 6, knocked down his own 3 from the top of the key, Kyle, and he rebounded well. Didn't have to worry about a lot of size in terms of defending the rim last night, defending the paint. But as we talked about last night post-game with you and Rich And we were discussing it when you came on, right before you came on, you heard us talking about him. And the one thing I said was, I'll throw my question at you, Rich, after we finish speaking to Kyle, but you brought it up. And that was the defense maybe not needing to be as much as a rim protector shot blocker because of all the wing help that will most likely be out there on the floor with him. So a lot to like from last night. Will we see a lot more of Yabusele at the 5 when Joel Embiid maybe misses a game?
Well, and so I would probably sell the idea of Yabusele playing like a ton of 5, right? I think it's going to come on these nights where Joel doesn't play, and I think it's pretty clear Nurse does not necessarily trust Bona yet, right? And for good reason. He's still very erratic. He's going to jump at everything. Sometimes that's good, right? There was a spectacular block, yep. And he had some nice like up and under the rim moves last night on offense. But broadly, you can see Bona is exactly as advertised. He's a raw, young, big man who's going to make a lot of mistakes. Whereas Yabusele's going to have some limitations with the rim protection stuff, but he is an experienced pro at this point. And so if you're going to buy 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, Drummond's on the bench, Joel's not playing this night, I think he believes in Yabusele. Where I think we really need to find out where he stands on this team is, can he play the 4? Can he play next to another big man? He did it in Europe. He did it with Tavares and some other guys over there for Real Madrid. Did it in the Olympics, playing next to Wembanyama and to a lesser extent Rudy Gobert, who got sent to the shadow realm for most of the Olympics. But it was good to see him get off and make the 1-3 last night. That's really all I am watching that game for if I'm tracking Yabusele. Him bulldozing a bunch of guys who are giving up 50 pounds to him is great, and I like seeing him take advantage of it. But how much does that mean for his NBA future? Very little, if you're asking me. So I loved seeing him hit the 3, and that really is like going to make or break whether he can be a multi-positional front court guy or he gets relegated to a smaller, like, hey, you're the third big type of role. So off to a great start. And on top of that, I thought, and I brought it up with you last night, Devon, thought he had some good passing instincts, had soft hands on those entry passes, which for backup bigs can be a real dicey issue. I think Bona, that's one of his real problems is having to work on his catching and his catch radius. So a lot of good stuff from him. It's just hard to know yet what they have and how he fits in until Joel plays and until they have more of a quote unquote normal rotation.
Yeah. Because I think Kyle's right. Like the bully ball stuff was really fun to watch, but he's not going to get those kind of mismatches all that often, especially if he's playing more of a 5. Most of those guys were just physically overmatched. There were 2 of his buckets that I think stood out. One of them was a 3. It was great that it went in. It is a little bit of a slow release. We'll see how that translates when he maybe has a little more space playing alongside Embiid, but also where that shot is more critical when you're playing alongside of Embiid, and not only making that shot, but being able to space the floor. And part of gravity is the quickness of the release. So it'll be that'll be something to watch. The other one was he set a screen for Tyrese Maxey.
He set some great screens last night.
He set a screen for Kyle Lowry, and then Maxey set a back screen for him, got him on the dive because Maxey has so much gravity as a shooter, caused some indecision, and it was a good roll to the rim by Yabu. I'm almost more interested in sort of like that off-ball stuff, that diving stuff, more than I am bully ball, because the bully ball will come and go depending on the matchup. The off-ball stuff, I think he has enough athleticism and size where he should be able to do that pretty regularly. So I thought the screening and that screen and roll specifically that led to a bucket was probably his second most important bucket of the night.
And I want to say, I don't mean to come off as like it's meaningless that he bullied smaller players, right? Because he will get mismatches.
Yeah.
And I think his ability to punish those is important. All I'm saying is in last night's game where he was a physical mismatch against basically the entire team.
Right.
I'm not going to come into the season being like, oh, he's going to shoot 80+% from the field every night and just throw everybody into the dumpster on the other team. Like, that's why it's not super meaningful, but I think it shows an understanding of these are my strengths. These are the matchups that work for me. And that is all good. It's just, how does that translate against what we would say is baseline NBA competition?
The bully ball will be there sometimes, just not every night. Like if Devon takes ZB in the post, it doesn't mean he's taking Kyle in the post. It's night to night.
I mean, he would certainly. I would get thrown through the stanchion by that guy.
Oh, I meant Devon.
Yeah.
You attack when you can based on a matchup.
I'm scoring on everybody, man. It's just happening. Let's just make that clear. But no, and look,
we saw the video, man. We have proper fear of Devon Givens.
Thank you. You should. And I look at that as an example as you guys talk about that. We were mentioning just some teams on any random night of Charlotte playing against Nick Richards or as a backup, even though he has the height. Would that be a problem? Or going against someone like Isaiah Stewart if he's the 5 when they take Jalen Duren off the floor with Detroit, or even go to New York if Karl Anthony Towns is off the floor and now they want to use Precious Achiuwa at the 5 instead of Jericho Sims. Does that matchup work much better with Yabusele at that 5 and showing it last night? There's a reason Nick Nurse wanted to see it last night. He may want to see it over the next 5 games also, but he certainly wanted to see what that looks like in the event that he has to call that number against one of these basketball
And that's
teams.
what the preseason is for, right? It's like this is a low-stakes environment where you can test things like this out, right? You're not going to get many regular season games where you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm just not going to play Drummond tonight because I want to experiment with Yabu at the 5. And then you get there and you have to play him there. And it's like, well, we've never worked on this. We've never seen what it looks like. So this is the exact correct time to start looking at these things and say, it's just process of elimination. Like, is this possible? Sure. Is it great? We don't know yet, but it's a nice thing to have under your hat for now, and we'll see if they need it throughout the regular season.
It's nice to just unleash in the preseason. Andre Drummond threes. We're going to talk about that on the other side when we get back here on the PHLY Sixers podcast, plus some super chats.
Guys, I tell you about them all the time. I'm going to tell you about them again. Our good friends at Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades that are built to last. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company. Durable frames, crystal clear optics. They're the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They've been rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. That is an amazing number. Hundreds of options to choose from. They probably have a style or in your favorite team's colors. You should look that up. Everyone's high on Philadelphia sports, except for maybe the Eagles right now. So we'll ignore the green ones for the time being, but maybe that's your style
AJ
anyway.
Brown, Devontae
You've
Smith.
seen the Shady Rays on the set. I wear them all the time outside of work, obviously. Wear them in the car. I brought them down to the Bahamas to keep the sun out of my eyes for some live shots and some different things we did down there. They are great, and if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, they have the most insane protection in all of eyewear, every pair backed by lost or broken replacements. If you don't love your Shady Rays, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. No risk shopping with our good friends at Shady Rays. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays giving out the best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY. 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
And if you're getting ready to close out the work day and you're ready for some baseball, make sure you go check out our team, the live show, the PHLY team getting ready for a live show and watch party at Gall & Co. in Port Richmond. That is today. First pitch, 5:08 against New York. Are the Philadelphia baseball team going to take the series lead? We don't need any sweating like we did on Sunday. That was too much. That was way too much. Get this victory. Watch it with the PHLY Phillies podcast at Gall & Co. They're on their way there now to watch the game with you. So make sure you go ahead there. And there will be a lot of diehard members there. You want to read the stories about the Phillies and picking up a victory today? You want to read it at allphly.com. You got to become a diehard member to do so. You want to read the things that Colin Derrick wrote from last night's preseason games that you were all excited about, McCain and Yabusele and Andre Drummond's three-point shooting. You want to read that at allphly.com. So go sign up, become a diehard member, and get a chance to read everything, take advantage of the perks of being a diehard member, and do so at allphly.com. Also, should we just tell people about, all the smoke tomorrow?
Yeah.
Go check them out. The show is tomorrow at TLA. since we're all family now, right? We're TLA.
And if you guys missed it, our interview with Steven Jackson that's up on the YouTube page, we got into a lot of stuff. Allen Iverson, Paul George, Tobias Harris a couple times, unfortunately. And the media empire.
We didn't even lead him into that stray. He just went right out and got it.
That's why it's called all the smoke and not a little bit of the smoke. So Steven Jackson was gracious enough to give us some time. Couldn't catch up with Matt Barnes, hoping to see him tomorrow alongside Steven and Paul George and Gillian Wallow and Deshaun Jackson and Shady McCoy. It's going to be a packed
Shady's
house on South. Allegedly.
Oh, okay.
That's what's out there. We'll see.
And if you watch the interview, you'll see that Allen Iverson just decided to interrupt our conversation with Steven Jackson
twice,
a couple of times. So go check it out. It's on our YouTube page, and it may not be right there on the front where you see it live. You have to go to the video section of the YouTube page to check out our conversation with Steven Jackson, or you can go check out any of our personal accounts where we have some things out there, as well as PHLY_Sixers on Twitter to watch the video with Steven Jackson. Some good stuff in there.
I'm looking forward to trying his new mezcal that he offered us yesterday.
Tomorrow. So yeah, allthesmokeproductions.com/tour. Get some tickets. Yeah, the book drops today. They were doing their tour today, media rounds for the book. The book is called All the Smoke, All the Stars, All the Stories, No Apologies. And the book will be on sale at the event tomorrow at the TLA on South Street. Yep. So we hope to see you there. We'll be there. So we hope to see you there. Bree is there. You get a chance to see Bree. Everybody wants to see Bree. Bree will be there. We'll be there. Let's have some fun.
The real star of the show.
She's
the real
star. Much cooler than any of the three dorks up here. For sure.
Speak for yourself.
Also, probably give a shout out to Zach's book if you haven't already got it. Obviously, you won't get a chance to go to that event. That was last night. But still support Zach. Read the incredible book.
Great turnout last night.
The franchise. Philadelphia Eagles, a curated history of the Eagles.
Great turnout.
All right, we've waited long enough. Everyone is ready to talk.
Fire the threes,
Andre Drummond, the new Dirk Nowitzki.
Oh, man. Listen, he said it at training camp. If you see me doing something, it's with a purpose.
Yes.
And he did that last night, Derek, when he spotted up in the corner. It was not like when Ben Simmons shot it against the Lions.
No, it looked better than Ben.
It was better than this one because I'm firing this one up. There was a closeout, everything, and he still shot the three-pointer.
Well, and then he got one above the break, and he fired that one up, too.
Now, Rich had a problem with that.
Why do we always have to bring up Ben on this damn show?
Rich had a problem
Every time we bring this MFer up, I can't stand it.
Top of the key three. Well, maybe we'll see
I've had enough.
You'll see him next Wednesday when they play Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'll see him all right.
That's
with
right.
his bottom of the free throw numbers.
I wonder if he plays in that one.
Free throw golf in Brooklyn.
But
anyway.
Did you have a problem with the top of the three key as much as you like a corner three?
Not in the preseason. No, I have no problems. Let him fly.
Because even Rich was like, no, I don't like that one. I'm like, Rich, it still looked pretty good shooting it from top of the key.
Even in the regular season, if he wants to fire one top of the key three per game, I'll allow it. I'll allow it just because you're trying to build him up to the point where he will be able to do it in the postseason. I'm not buying any of it. I'm not even sure. I will say the corner three looked pretty pure. I'm not buying it after one shot, though, but I'm certainly
buying the makes or the attempts.
Regular season, one or two a game, I'm fine.
Okay,
go for it.
So you're okay with the attempts,
assuming it's not in the end of game. Anyway, it doesn't matter. No, he can experiment a little bit. I'm not sure I trust it yet, but I certainly my confidence level has gone up since when he started talking about it in training camp. When he talk about training camp, it's like, what are we doing here? This is stupid. He looked better than I expected.
Well, notable non-coward Andre Drummond. I'm buying all the stock right now, and I said it last night. I think this is happening with eyes on playing some double big lineups where Andre
that's where I'm out.
Well, you're already out. You can't be more out. You're either in or you're out.
I just told him he can fire away in the regular season. I don't want to see double big lineups.
Right.
Dre, let it fly, buddy. That's what you've been told by the coaching staff. Shot looks good. I'll tell you this. I said to Derek when he was lining up for that above the breakthrough, I was like, shoot it. I'm like the Flyers fans on the power play. I'm like, yeah, come on, let it go. I'm all in on at least early part of the season, see what he's got. It's not going to take away from what he does the vast majority of the time, which is playing around the basket. Occasionally he's going to facilitate from the high post. We saw a little bit of that last night as well. by and large, they are going to use Andre as a big man who is going to vacuum up rebounds and play near the basket. If we get 1 3 a game, if we get even a second 3 per game, it'll depend on who else is on the floor, what else is happening. But if he can hit 35% on low volume, that would be a just massive, massive victory for the backup units. So I'm going to be Mr. Positive. I'm buying. Let it fly, Andre. I want to see more and more of them.
I'm 100% with you on let it fly. I have no problem. I'll even tolerate some double big lineups randomly just because you can experiment.
Ho. You said you're even more out on that.
I don't believe in those at all, but I will tolerate it in the regular season because you're experimenting. That's the only reason why. But my confidence level in that is low. But Andre, shoot, I'm fine with that.
The jump shot shooting form looked better than the free throw shooting form that we're accustomed to seeing. And he looked comfortable taking that corner 3-pointer. And he absolutely, after making that corner one, felt, you damn right I'm firing this bad boy up right here at the top of the key.
It was like Devon on that second Papa shot.
No
shot
question
that you didn't
about
see
it,
on the
man. Smile on your face and everything. Fired it away. And I'm okay with that because, look, we were wondering if they were going to let Paul Reed do so, and he did. And he shot them, and the same thing here.
Shot looked better than Paul's.
And
I was going to say, mechanically, not even close between those
two. But
two.
Years ago, we wouldn't have said it about Andre Drummond just because even the free throw shooting looked a little off sometimes with it, and he looked comfortable doing it.
No, he has clearly put in enough work that when he takes a 3, it doesn't look like you're in a circus.
Yeah. Real quick, on the chat here, Hypothetical Man. What's up, Hypothetical Man says, double big? Exclamation point, question mark. And then PHLY says Twin Towers. So Kyle, can you explain why you're saying this about the double big Twin Towers?
Look, we heard a little bit, I won't say from who, but we heard a little bit down in the Bahamas during training camp that
fired up.
This is something that I think the Sixers at least want to try. I'm not saying like, hey, they signed Andre Drummond and he's the new power forward on the team, right? But I think as they've looked at the roster, as they see, Yabu is basically the only real power forward they have, they're looking at some other stuff and they're saying, would it be entirely crazy for Andre to play the... And here's the other thing, too. If you're talking about someone who's going to have the confidence to just keep shooting, if you're like, hey, we need you to expand the range, I don't doubt that Andre is going to walk into the gym and be like, I believe that shot's going in.
Yes.
And that's why I was annoyed that you brought up Ben Simmons, because he might be the most scared player in the entire league in any context when he steps on the floor. Andre, everything we see about him is, screw it. I'll throw a behind the back pass from 50 feet away. Or
a couple of those last night.
Some legendary
full-court
videos,
outlet,
man.
and and that's sometimes there's a downside to that, certainly. But I think in a situation where you're asking a player like, hey, do something different, step out of your comfort zone. It's like we talked about with Kelly a lot last year. You need guys who, if you challenge them to do something, will just say, yeah, I'll do it. I'll try it. I'll throw some things at the wall and we'll see what works. So I appreciate the cavalier, pioneering spirit of playing Drummond potentially in a double big front court.
Boots,
that's what I would say.
What's up, Boots? Says
bad lineup. Don't do it.
Devon bringing up old stuff. My fault. My bad. I got carried away. My bad. I didn't mean to do that.
Keep that.
My bad.
I'm not going to say it.
Mr. Sandman says, call him Andre Doncic. Fire it up. Let's get to the super chats, Bree.
Now, if he goes to like a step back 3, that's when I'm like, no, you got to stop that.
It's spot ups only.
Yeah.
I'm not watching Andre Drummond take a dribble handoff from Joel Embiid and go,
step back 3.
That's where I draw the line. I'm
step
done.
Back 3 and we're on press row. I'm going to get up and walk out and come back to the
You'd
studio.
be like LeBron with the briefcase.
Yes.
Just packs it up, walks down the side.
Sandman, you got one right there, man. We appreciate that. The step back 3 will be a no-go. Well, maybe we'll have him on the show one day and we'll ask him about the step back 3s. All right, let's get to Shahid here on the super chat. Oh, man, that's
Andre
funny.
Drummond becoming the Ish Smith, in parentheses, beloved stabilizer of the current Sixers is hilarious, yet apt.
Perfect.
Much different scenario, obviously. Andre not coming in to save a 10-72 basketball team. But I think It's one of the fun things about the previous stint Andre had, right? He was enemy of the Sixers and of their best player and has now become this guy that a lot of people internally, certainly, but also around the city really like Andre. So I was really worried when he got rolled up on last night, by the way. I did ask Nick Nurse about that today. Andre is fine. So no long-term health concerns.
Bad defensive showing on that possession by our guy. Ricky had a good game last night, but the offensive player went right by him. And with that, everything was a little off, and the player fell into Andre Drummond's knee, but good to hear that he's all right. Shahid, appreciate that. We go to Al, the 2-minute warning. What up, Al? 10th super chat here. We have 5 games left. How many games does Joel and Paul George need to play to be ready?
I mean, it's need versus will play, right?
Yeah.
You might get 1 or 2 out of Paul
honestly,
George.
I think 2 games I don't think you need more than 2 games to be ready. I do think this is one where it's like, I think fans overrate it a little bit because it's all you see. You don't get to see the practices. You don't get to see scrimmages. So you think this is the only thing that they're doing to get ready. But will they get 2? Paul could get 2.
I think Paul will get 2.
I'm not super confident about Joe.
Yeah, I asked you guys off air at one point. I said it at 1.5 Joel preseason games.
I say under.
I think it's under.
Yeah.
I think you could even talk me into 0.
Yeah, I set the over under at 0.5.
And that's going to play. Not that I think he should play.
He played 1 last year, right? The last game?
I believe so.
Very last game. Very, very last game. I would say because this week they have Minnesota on the road in Iowa. And
they're somehow the home team.
And they're the home team. And then they have Boston back to back. So would they play in one of them in one game next week for Paul George? Because they have Atlanta, Brooklyn, and I don't remember who the final game is, but they're Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. One this week, one next week, or both next week?
I'm sorry. I just have to I'm going on my tangent here.
The home game?
They're playing a game in Iowa. Has anyone looked at a map of where Minnesota is and where Pennsylvania is before declaring? And by the way, the Minnesota Timberwolves G League team is the Iowa Energy. And somehow the Sixers are the home team for this game. Who decides these things? I know these things don't matter at all, but who made that decision? Just I need to talk to somebody.
I wonder if you're allowed a certain amount of home games technically in the preseason, and Minnesota has
all
too
the
many.
Sixers fans in South Jersey are going to be flooding over to Iowa to watch this game.
The dozens of people at the Wells Fargo last night will be so disappointed.
Yeah. It's such a goofy. They're the road team. It's okay it's like you only got a certain amount of games in I don't know, whatever. It's stupid, but to circle
for
back
those who are uncertain, Iowa is directly below Minnesota, and I know that there are some in the chat, even if you won't admit it.
Open a map, NBA. How about that?
Kyle's rant today was brought to you by PHLY Sixers here on the show.
But I think we'll probably get 1 game out of Joe. I would think 2 games out of PG.
I'm just curious if Paul George plays this week at all in either of those 2 games. All right, it's time for the legendary.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to speed run this one.
Roll call.
Hello, everybody, and thank you to Puppas. Thank you to Jess. Thank you to my girl, Winona. Thank you to Darkness.
Whoa, turn the lights down.
Thank you to Hypothetical Man, Eugene Ross,
what up, Gene?
Money Marr, Malcolm Carrington, Jay the Jungle, Kyle Wright. I think I already said Hypothetical Man. You get a second one. There you go, buddy. I like you that much. Phi Chi in the building. Bootzilla in the building. Mickey P.
What up, man?
In the building. Mr. Sandman hanging out with us today. Thank you to each and every one of you. Brian C. with us today. Is he bringing you a dream?
Bring me a dream.
Everybody who's here with us, thank you for being here. If you could hit that subscribe button.
Thank you, Al and Shahid, for the super chats.
Oh,
I already got it.
My apologies. Hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. Send a thumbs up to say thank you to super producer Bree. We'll be back tomorrow.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.